Good evening, I'm Riley Harvey for VCN, and this is the Thursday night PRT Handicap race. We're back once again to cover this fantastic race. Happens every Thursday night, 7 PM GM time. It's a great race. We'll go over some of the quick little things in the race. It is a 3.2 watt per kilogram weight normalized race. So what this basically means is that a wider spectrum of people can get into the race and can compete together on an equal footing. Everyone should have their weight roughly limited to 3.2 watts per kilogram. So have their power roughly limited to 3.2 watts per kilogram, which means that the elite athletes with a higher FTP carry a weight races. So if you have a higher FTP, work out your weight for this event, for this race, by taking your FTP, dividing it by 3.2, and then that will give you your weight that you enter into the game for this event. This is the only event in RGT in the cycling world where it's okay to play with your weight. You're not sandbagging people in this race. You are going in there with either a weight penalty, or if you have a low FTP, the calculation works the other way. You actually reduce your weight, so you lower your weight. This means that when you hit a hill, and the watt per kilogram really matters, your weight's really going to take an effect. You will go faster if you've got a lower weight, you'll go slower if you've got a higher weight, and it means that everyone has a bit more of an even battle, and it makes the racing more interesting for everyone. The other thing is as well with that race, because of the way it's set up, is that if you're a slower rider in real life, if you really struggle to compete, you're not going to be miles behind the winners of this race. You're going to be close, you're going to be competing, you're going to have a chance to win this race. And it really gives you the ability and inspiration to dig deep and make a big effort for this race. We've done a relive for this race. You can have a look at what you're going to be racing on. So, now, called the Sardinian Snake, with a 24.2 kilometer course, 325 meters of elevation. There's 3 main sections of ascent, although there is some good flat sections in this course, and we are finishing on pretty much a hilltop finish. I think there might just be a very slight descent after the climb, but you're going to be pushing all the way up to that final finish. There's my Strava when I did it earlier on today, which wasn't really me, but we'll pretend it was me because I had quite a good time on that. We'll go down to the racetrack so we do not miss the start, and we are underway. That's the field pushing away there. Sergio Solana stuck in 80th position there. Neely Bow, and we'll jump up to the front of the race. Darren Ray pushing off at the front now, as he so often does in these races. He puts in massive efforts at the beginning of these races. Seen Darren develop as these races have gone on, and he's doing fantastically, putting in lots of effort in every race and making some really big gains. We can see he's pushed out in front of the field here. My only thing I would say to Darren is that occasionally he does go a little bit too hot in the beginning of these events, and should possibly just cool it slightly so that you can enjoy the drafting behind some of the riders on this course, and not blow up too early into the course. He's being chased by Martins there. As we're coming in straight out of the starting blocks, we had a big elevation gain there. Being chased down by Martins. Got Shrek, one of the regular PRT riders, just behind him, and then behind him we've got Chris Bancroft, David Brookhuizen, Greasley and Klotz, who are relatively new to the PRT events, but they've been putting in some good riding. And then not too far behind them we've got Ben Lowe, who is a fantastic rider, one to watch on this course, I would say. Ben, and Shrek as well, with it not having too many sections of climbing in it. I think Shrek's got a good shout on this one. He's got a good engine on him, lots of top end power. We're going to drop back through the field. See Shrek there and Bancroft just working together, open up a little bit of a gap on the field behind them, but that'll soon get closed as that pack work together. And then we've Andre Fugara there. He's with a group. Ollie Perkins is in there as well. Ollie Perkins won the Combativity Award last week. Novak, he's another new rider. Got Millward from the Friday Crits group. Beasley, Beer Run, Pulver. We see Millward, Mancini there as well. The Friday Crits group are coming over on a lot of the events now. They're starting to show up. They've been taking part in some of the team time trials and brought a team or two over. And it's good to see some of the riders from Zwift are making a bit more of a transition to RGT now. But the beauty of RGT is that if you are a Zwift rider, you don't have to choose one or the other. You can pay for your Zwift subscription because they charge you every day. But you can ride the free version on RGT, and you can take part in many of the events like this. Just seeing Michael Franks there. He's in the Team Lou team time trial team. So jump up to the front because it's just crushing a bit there at the front. Darren Ray still pushing out in the front. Will Usher, the creator of these races, lead coach at PRT, is not racing tonight. He is being my co-pilot through the chat, and he's just commenting that Martins is a light rider. He'll do well on the hills, but he'll struggle on the flatlands later on. And you can see there Martins just on that small section of hill, flying off the front. Darren slowing somewhat, Shrek catching up to Darren, and big group behind there. I've just noticed I switched into Imperial, doing some changes earlier on and doing some checking because there was a question mark about some of the ability to change from Imperial to metric earlier on, and I've not switched it back, so I'm gonna have to switch that over. Just bear with me a second, guys. This is how quick you can make changes in RGT, and that just goes to show how quickly things can be done in RGT. And we're back into metric now. That makes much more sense to me again now. I see Darren Ray second position, Shrek in third, David Brookhusen in fourth, Bancross in fifth, Novak, Klotz 6th and 7th, Ollie Perkins in 8th, Andre Fugara in 9th, Beer in 10th. Switch the angle now so we can see the gapping between these riders. Millward, Lowe, Dimecki, Michael Franks. Just behind him we've got Stuart Ludlow, who's another good rider from the PRT group. Mancini, Pulver, Matt Jones, Katie, I think that's Kate Warren, with Greasley there. We've got Guy Hep now. Guy's riding on his team time trial bike tonight. His regular bike was they commented that somehow the technicians, the expert technicians, had managed to snap off an Allen key in the front derailleur, and I think when he was saying expert, he actually really wanted to use a different word to expert, but we're going to go with expert just in case there's younger viewers listening. But didn't sound like he was too pleased. Not entirely sure what they were doing with an Allen key anywhere near his front derailleur when they were changing a tyre. Yeah. Katie, we bicycled back there as well. Free advertising on the streams. Benson, I've not seen Benson riding for a couple of weeks now. I think it's Dan Benson. He came into this event a couple of weeks ago and was absolutely flying. Perhaps struggling a little bit more as he's dialed in his FTP, but I think he won the Combativity Award a couple of weeks ago. Just going back up there, we saw P. Goodfellow there, and there's Sergio Soldana. Sergio racing a little bit less frequently in the PRT events now. His personal circumstances have changed slightly, so he can't make it on the Thursday evenings as regularly as he'd like to. but he was at the back of this field earlier on tonight when we joined the stream. He was right at the back, and he's made it up to 22nd now. I know that Sergio has recently started taking part in the VCN team time trial events with the Portuguese team, and he rides with Andre Fugado, one of the other riders that's taking part tonight, and also Diogo Almeida, and they're both slightly heavier riders than Sergio is. Sergio is a fan of the hills. He's naturally quite light without the handicap, but with the handicap he's a heavier rider, and he struggles a little bit. As we see, Fugado is gone off the front. So on the team time trial, because it was a flatter course and he was keeping up with these big powerhouses in the rest of his team, he actually increased his FTP, and suffering a little bit for that tonight because he's having to carry more weight. It's Rob Sedgwick riding with Metz, Palmer, Paredes, then we've got a little bit of a gap back to Ursula, Nors, and Barry Wilson there. I mention it quite frequently. It's nice to see Barry riding because he rides with Ollie, who's his grandson. It's good that you see this big gap in ages, but you can see a lot of competition between riders because of the handicap. They're just being chased down by Jackie Muke and Butler, not too far behind them. This is it's interesting to see how spread out the field is now. There's lots of gaps, lots of riders who are riding solo. They're not massively far away from other riders, but they're just not managing to close these gaps down. Drop back to Mealy and Tom Smith. And just chasing onto Tom Smith's wheel there. We've got Ledung, Lightfoot rolling through. Tom just easing off on the pressure slightly there as we Gail, PRT rider. Gail was nominated for, and I think won the Combativity Award last week. Slade, Bosso, Stent, and Stent commenting there that if only this was his real weight, or their real weight, they'd find hills much easier. I see Bev Usher. Now Bev dropped out of the race last week, if I remember rightly, and I'm not sure why. I didn't manage to follow up with that. Perhaps Will can comment on why Bev decided to abandon last week. Just checking back, we've got lots of bots in this race towards the back end of the field. Bots are added in to help riders who've got stuck or perhaps haven't got the power to make it up with the front riders. Maybe have not worked out their FTP quite correctly. And I see Paris there using these bot riders to draft and make it through a little further up the field. Do occasionally get riders that miss the start slightly, and they use these bot riders at the back to fly forward on the course. I think Paris is the last of our real riders. I'm just finding out that Bev had missed out on his warm-up last week and had a stressful week, so he decided that he was going to back off last week and take it easy, which is the sensible thing to do. There's no point in pushing yourself. Not getting paid for doing this. It's for fun and for fitness, so important that you do it in a healthy way. We're going to fly forward to the front of the race. See how things are going here. We've got Novak, Bancross, Shrek. And we've got Darren Ray just slightly off the back. Great. Getting back into the group there. And flying through it off the front. And there's a little bit of gapping back to the next group on the road, which is Beerun, Klotz and Fugada. On this flat section we may find that those riders managed to get back in. We're going to go back up to a high helicopter shot and see if we can see Klotz bridging across there. Klotz putting in the effort to get to the wheel of Darren, who's once again just yo-yoed off the back there. Klotz is coming through over the wheel of Darren and joining in with the front group. I'm being told that it's Benson should close on the front group. So we've got Klotz at the back end of this group now. Still a little bit active at the front with Bankrus and Shrek and Novak pushing. Some stretching of the elastic there. Darren pushing to get back into the group. Darren going deep into that bright red, the neuromuscular, the point where you're only going to be able to sustain it for a few seconds. Burning matches, I think, is the term that most of us will know quite well with that. As Klotz is doing the same again, his power bar's going bright red. Drop back there, we see Bierun, Bugara with a good sized engine, heavier rider. I think he weighs in at 92 kilograms with his handicap. There's only a couple of kilograms of that which is actually handicap. He's a bigger rider, more suited for the flat. So this section of green now should be a good section for him. Pure power there, he's pushing out 430 watts. Dropping Bierun. This will be his bread and butter cycling now. Bierun easing back as we're slightly descending down at a -2 slope. Then we've got some interest in this group. Meko at the front there. But worth mentioning, there is a PRT Discord group. So a big group of the riders get onto the PRT Discord and get involved. You can hear everybody screaming, shouting, and quite often swearing about how hard the course is and how hard the riding is. But it does give you the opportunity when you're in a group like this one with Zemecki, Lancini, Jones, Ollie Perkins there, to group up and work together and take pulls on the front to reel in the riders who are not too far away into the distance on these flat sections. A big part of the missing link with the virtual cycling, I think, is this ability to communicate between riders, and the Discord groups help to do that. And they are open groups, so that doesn't always work. You can sometimes find that you're just giving away your game plan to the rest of the riders on the road. But you can get a group of you together and use the drafting benefits of RGT, and you can find it greatly to your advantage. We're going to go back up to the front again and see what's happening here. We've got Darren Ray dropping back there. That's a gap of 45 meters to this front group of 5. Now Fugara is there, pushing hard to close it down. Martin's in the mix. Just going through a little power climb now. Little lump of Novak off the front. Bankrus into the red. Klotz there for Gara. The gap's just opened back up again to him. There is this big section of green which I think Darren and Gara may work well together on. Hopefully they'll group up. See Bankrus there as we just come over the top of the power climb. He's pushing hard. David Brookers and these two guys quite often battling it out together. And Shrek in the mix. This is looking like a favourable course for him, although I think he's going to struggle with the final climb at the end. Just getting the nod that the group with Sergio, Jones, Perkins and Ludlow will work very well together. Just drop back now and see how Shrek pushing onto this group. Bugara, he's pushed on and dropped Darren Ray. Martin's struggling on these flatter sections. See, the gap there for Fugara is immense. It's 92 meters to a strong group in front of him. Maybe well advised here to take it slightly easier and just let Darren Ray get back to his wheel and work as a couple. I think Martins is going to struggle with this green section that's here. I'm referring to the green section. When I say the green section, I'm looking at the profile across the bottom of the screen. Green sections are descending, slight descents, and flatter sections. It's between -2 and +2, basically, which is the territory of the bigger, stronger riders, the ones who are putting out more raw watts. And red sections are the climbing sections where it goes up above 5, and these are the areas where the lighter riders and the riders who are benefiting positively from the weight handicap, that's where they will gain on those sections. Will Deegan, who's a regular rider, is taking a break from tonight with his brother-in-law, who sometimes races in these races, and he's enjoying another pastime of his. They're watching it on the live stream, commenting that the front group could be an exciting one tonight, because there's some big guns in this. Chris Bancroft, David Brookhuizen and Shrek don't disappoint. Novak's a new rider to myself, but he's looking quite capable in this group. So before we get too far through the ride, I'm going to drop back and give the other riders in this race a little bit of screen time. Giving Fugara there a bit of time already. Bieran and Darren Ray. Darren just pushing to get back to the wheel. Bieran there. Martin's tailing off. So on these green sections, possibly not the best terrain for him. Martin's a lighter rider and enjoying the sections where going uphill. Dimeco, Culver, Lancini grouped together with Sergio not too far behind. Sergio will be pushing hard to get to a group and enjoy a bit of drafting on this flat section. Ben Lowe and Benson. Benson looking like he's going to make the catch to Ben there. Ben's got a good engine on him. He does well in a lot of the PRT events, a lot of the PRT handicap races, but he does sometimes suffer from dropouts. So I think he'd have featured more heavily in some of the coverage on the PRT handicaps if it wasn't for the occasional dropout for him. Sticking to the wheel of Benson, as I say, Benson started riding in the PRT handicap races about 4 weeks ago, maybe longer, time flies, and he really lit the race up. Made some recoveries all the way through the race. He was making recoveries back to the wheel, having big gaps open up on him, and then charging back to the wheel again to the point where you were thinking he's got to be blown, he's got to go, and he didn't. He carried on going, and I think on that occasion he won the race and the handicap. There we go, under the halfway marker. And just while we're talking about Precision Race Team, and might as well mention Precision Rewards. We had a little trailer play for Precision Rewards as we came into the race. Precision Rewards precision-rewards.co.uk is a place where you can head to get some discounts on your favorite cycling gear. It's born out of the relationship that Will has managed to cultivate with a lot of these suppliers that he's worked with all the years in this field, and it's suppliers that he's worked with and knows are reliable, and he's managed to secure discounts which he's passing on to you guys. They're free. All you have to do is sign up and you can get 10% off a whole range of different things. I use the Uperform collagen gels, which I get discount through the Precision Rewards scheme, but they do discounts on the Torque gels, which are really high quality gels, Specialized bikes, Wahoo, Cube, all sorts of different companies, many more that I can't mention. There's always more coming online as well, so it's worth heading over to Precision Rewards and checking that out. I'll play the trailer on the way out of the stream as well, and you can always head back to YouTube and check it out. And whilst I'm on the little bit of a sales pitch, if you can head over to YouTube and hit us up with a like and a subscribe, that'd be much appreciated. You don't have to do that. We do this for fun and a bit of enjoyment, but if you can support us by doing that, that's great. Back to the race. We're with Matt Jones, Stuart Ludlow, Anton Wouters, Ollie Perkins, who is just yo-yoing a little bit off the back of this group. 20th position there, back up into 19th. Ollie is a younger rider. I think he's around about the age of 14. He's got a great FTP, but he's just trying to dial that in because he's a younger rider. I think he's a little bit more difficult to dial in his FTP and get his weight right for this race, because he is quite a light rider. But he's doing really well in these races. Really combative, really makes a full effort every time. Stuart Ludlow, Goodfellow Jones, Anton Wouters there. And then we've got Millward, Friday Crits, solo, 218 metres away from Ollie Perkins. Michael Franks, who's also chasing there. He's also in no man's land. He's 190 metres shy. Millward there pushing out 250 raw watts. We'll drop back to Franks now. Franks there riding the Team Lou kit is at 230 watts. On these flatter sections, in case you hadn't realised, the watts per kilogram does not matter as much. You really would struggle to use it as a metric on the flat sections for how fast the rider is going. The raw watts is what you need to look at when you're looking on the flatter sections of races. I liken it to a car. You know, once you get a car moving, if you're pushing a car and you get it rolling, it doesn't really matter how heavy it is. Once it's rolling, it's rolling. It's going to go. It's the same with riders. When they're on the flat, even if they're a heavier rider, once they've got themselves up to speed, they've got the raw power, they can go. It's where lighter riders suffer really on the flats, because they can go up the hills, but they haven't got the raw watts when they need them on the flat sections. Franks pushing out now 150 watts, just taking it easy on a slight descent there. We're going down at -6. We've got Perez and Metz. Perez pushing hard there, to looking like he's trying to drop Metz. Trying to make it decisive at the middle part of the race. I'm not sure how I'm going to go with Yakimuk for this name. 25th again, isolated. 280 metres up to the group of Metz and Perez there. 212 metres back to Mealy. Mealy got group on his tail. Mark Lightfoot, Barry Wilson, Ursula, Katie Warren, and now Paredes, all close by, giving chase to Mealy there. I think they'll catch, reel in Mealy. Nors, whoever, remember he was with that group earlier on. He's just had to ease slightly. He's dropped back now. ...140 meters distant on that group. And we've got Ledung and Slade riding together. Slade there, not sure whether that's the use of an F. As a female rider, or it's an F as a master's classification. And then we've got Palmer and Stent riding together. Matty is just asking a question on the live stream there. It's Riley, how do you get the live athlete info? Which particular info is it you're referring to, Matthias? Most of it's just live on the screen. Not sure which info exactly. If you let me know, I'll point out where to find it. Got Palmer and Stent there, and then we've got grouping behind them with Butler, Osso, Greasley, and then we can see a rampaging group of bots just in the distance behind them. Drop back. We've got Tom Smith riding with these bots now, dropping in and enjoying a nice draft saving. And we see, looking at Tom's power there, we've got Tom pushing out 170 raw watts, roughly, top left hand corner, and he's making a saving tucked in behind Dorothy there of around about between, he's just dropped down to 30 watts now as we're going up a slight incline, but he was at one point there enjoying 100 watts. And dropping back now to, trying to find Bev. I'm not sure if Bev might have dropped out again this evening. Oh no, there we go. We've got a little grouping back, further back on the course now. We've got Gail in 77th position, drafting onto Ethel, team pace bot. And then we've Bev Usher. And then got some riders here who missed earlier on, unfortunately. Sorry about this. We've got Roche, Aguas, and Moray. So I did note earlier on that Sergio had some technical not some technical difficulties. He'd started towards the back of the grid, and got two more Portuguese riders here, and I have to contact Sergio and see whether he'd had any issues and whether these riders, because he usually brings some of the Portuguese riders over to the event with him. There's a Portuguese RGT Facebook group, so Sergio quite often comments in that group about the event and generally brings over some riders to the group with him. As we've got Klotz here, followed by Novak and Bankras and Brookhuizen. Shrek just dropped off now. Shrek tailing, he's 40 meters back on this group, and Brookhuizen pushing hard to get back to this group now. It does flatten off. I expect that Shrek will be able to push and make it back onto this group. See Bankras, Novak, Brookhuizen are not going to make it easy for him though. So Matthias is just commenting it. It's e.g. how do you know the individual weight of riders? I don't think there is a repository of the riders. You possibly could go to eBio Passport and have a look on there for some of the information on the riders. Basically, I've just been following some of these riders for a long time, and I speak to them outside of the races, and I'm involved in some group chats, so I know some of the information about the riders outside of the events that I cover. And I do spend a horribly long time on the Facebook groups on the RGT users group, on the VCN Facebook page, on the PRT Facebook page. So you just pick up some information by osmosis as you're going round. So I hope that's answered your question, Matthias. If you go to the eBio Passport, which you can access through the RGT DB site, some of the riders do have their profiles open so you can see their weights. Anybody who is looking to race competitively, that is something I definitely recommend that you look at doing, is to creating yourself an eBio Passport page and log in your information there. You may never need it, an event organizer may never ask you for it, but if you've already done it, then it's easy to maintain. And also, if you are racing competitively, a heart rate monitor as well. Not a necessity, but it makes it a lot easier for an event organizer to look at your performance and link the efforts that you've made to a raise and a fall in heart rate. I've seen it in the past where some riders have been using e-bikes, and I have no idea why they would use an e-bike. It's, you know, but you can see it, the power flat lines and the heart rate drops off. But yeah, it's a good idea to do the eBio Passport if you're looking at racing competitively. If you're not, if you're just doing it sociably, you know, not that hard. Still would recommend you did it, but not necessary for everyone. See Shrek there, Andre Fagada. Andre's got back to the wheel of Shrek. These two good, powerful, strong riders. I suspect that they will ride it out to the end together, and we'll have a nice bit of fireworks towards the end of this race. Shrek just seeing the Fagadas there, just going off out of the draft a little bit. Got back in Shrek there, and we can see in the top left-hand corner, Shrek's putting out 220 watts there. He's saving 180 watts as he just comes up and past the wheel of Fagada there. That's it. An important technique to learn on RGT, the drafting pocket, and how to utilize that and make sure that you get sat in it and make the most benefit. We do run some team time trials for the VCN TT. It's worth getting involved in that, getting yourselves a team together or joining an existing team. I know Team Lou have got about 7 teams running the team time trial now. They're looking for riders to come through in the development squad and to join the bigger squads as well. But it's a great event to get into, to learn this technique of drafting and really being able to save massive amounts of watts. Just jumping back to the front here because I can see everybody's powers going red. Novak really putting in an effort now. Bankers and Brookers and behind. Anders Jonsson now is just saying that on the live chat that Bankers has an incredible sprint and he's got his money on him. We've got Klotz and Novak in this front group who are relative unknowns to me and can't quite rule them out at this moment in time. Bankers, yes, he does have an incredible sprint and he's also a very canny rider. I was just saying he's got that technique of sitting in the draft and just using enough power. Quite often at the end of the streams, when you're looking at the watt per kilograms, got Chris Bankers who's up there challenging for the podium. He's also quite often one of the lowest on the watt per kilogram. So an interesting rider to watch. Also quite often in the mix for the Combativity Award, which I've not mentioned this evening very much. Obviously we have a podium. The podium quite often has some amendments made to it, let's put it that way. Everybody is supposed to work on a 3.2 watt per kilogram normalized power. Some riders don't pay attention to the ride description when they're joining the ride, and I think some riders willfully ignore it. So we do have Klotz has been dropped. Novak there was riding with him, but he's managed to jump back onto this group and he's dropped Klotz. Yes, we do have some riders who willfully ignore that information about how to come up with your weight for this event. So we do have some amendments made to the podium. Quite often it can be a number of riders. Will Deegan just commenting, come on Brookie, get that heart rate up and get the win. Just check on Brooker's and heart rate there. Heart rate's 181 for Brooker's and there. He's definitely got his heart rate up there. Not sure how much higher he can get it. Mine tops out just around about 190. Klotz making a real good battle to get back into this group here. Got back to Klotz there. Klotz heart rate 183. Pushes to try and make it back to this group. He's into the bright red power bar, which is the neuromuscular, the real sort of sprinting deep efforts, ripping those muscle threads apart. It looks like he's going to make it back here. That's some good riding. And that leads me on nicely to the combativity award again that I was just mentioning. We do have some DQs, some amendments to the podium quite often in these races. Brookers and Bancroft, frequent flyers on this event, they know how to set their FTP and their weight. So I suspect that they will be safe on the amendments. But as a result of this, quite often, going on here, Brookers and is just going off the front. Nobody is challenging. Nobody's reeling back in. 8% slope. Novak, Klotz don't know what to do. They probably aren't quite aware of how dangerous Bancroft is. Brookhuizen's not attacking. Bancroft just like that's opened up a gap, 118 meters. Brookhuizen still not putting the power down. He's letting him go. I wonder if they've discussed this pre-race. Bancroft, 110 meters clear. Still 110 meters. Novak, Klotz having to do all the work. Brookhuizen still just sitting in the wheels. The riders there. It's coming up to that big hairpin. A little bit of elevations close the gap slightly, but they'll open up again. It looked like Anders's shout is not even going to see the sprint from Bancroft at this rate. Bancroft has gone early and opened up huge gap. If he carries it to the base of this climb, doesn't matter how well Novak and Klotz and Brookhuizen draft together, they're not going to recover that. So with that gap opened up, 120 meters. Now we'll return to my comments on the combativity award as we come under the Flamme Rouge, the specialized Flamme Rouge marker. 1 kilometer to go, but it's uphill. It should take a few seconds. Combativity award has been developed and is much publicized and in demand in this race because it is the award that's voted for by your fellow riders. You can win the award by being the rider that has bridged the biggest gap. They've made the biggest attack. They've just towed you around. You know, you can vote for a rider for a whole manner of different reasons, as Bancroft is just opening up the watt gates here. 4.6, 4.5 watt per kilogram. Not wave to the goats though. That may come back on him. Novak, Klotz, Brookhuizen entering into the base of this climb. 400 meters left to go for Bancross. So to win the combativity award is really the main prize on this event, because quite often the riders on the podium may find themselves getting a review, a quick trip to the commissaire's tent for a bit of testing. Bancross 9.210 degrees on this final slope. Gap 63 meters now. Novak's trying to drop Klotz. Broekhuizen is just dropping out the back of that group. He's 20 meters back behind Klotz now. 250 meters left to go. Into the finishing straight. Watching the markers tick by. Bancross can take an early victory. Novak's managed to drop Klotz further back down the course. He's opened up a 30-meter gap on Klotz. It does ease slightly towards the top of this climb, but I don't think there's any chance of Novak reeling Bancross in. Bancross has still got his sprint left in reserve. Bancross moderating his efforts now towards the finish. He's up out of the saddle. 50 meters to go. His jersey's zipped up. He's ready to celebrate. And he rolls over the line victorious. Novak, second place. Hard fought battle for that position. He rode well tonight. Just behind him, Klotz. Klotz relatively new to this event. Comes over in third, and Rookie, heart rate up at 184. He's not let his heart rate drop. Perhaps he's just maxing out there and couldn't quite put any more effort in. Comes over in fourth position, and just a bit further down the course now we can see Shrek managed to distance Fugara slightly. Fugara still battling. Shrek in that bright red section. He's fighting for that position, not letting it go. And Andre Fugara comes over 45 minutes 20 there. Beer run. Another new rider for me. Another a rider that I've been following very much. Comes over in 7th position. And then we got Lancini and Benson. Let's see who wins this. Benson has got a fantastic sprint on him. Oh, Lancini's made it. Benson in second. Dimeco behind. I don't think Benson opened up his sprint there. Sergio Solar comes up over the line in 11th position. Pulver. Darren Ray. Darren saved some power for this last section. Can't quite overhaul Culver now. Culver comes over in 12th. Darren Ray, 13th position. Ollie Perkins, 14th. Some great showings by these riders tonight. Some great positions. And Martin's lighter rider. Expect him to open up a little bit of a gap now over Paris. Martins comes through in 15th. Paris to take 16th position. And Goodfellow to drop Stuart Good Ludlow. Finishing barriers. Stewart there. 68 meters in front of Jones. Jones comes over in 19th position, and Anton Woods is now 20th position. Michael Franks 165 meters behind him. So Will creates these courses from all over the world using the Magic Roads features in RGT, which means that you can use the GPX from a created file. You can make it on Strava, as Anton comes over in 20th position, Franks in 21st, being chased by Millward, but I don't think Millward's going to catch him. You can use GPXs from all over the world, ones that you've created in Strava, and we're even seeing quite a lot of riders now creating completely synthetic, completely made up routes. Well, say, sounds unusual, but like Watopia is completely made up, so perhaps not so unusual. But completely made up routes, even Strava are of all different creations, and riding those using the Magic Roads feature in RGT. As Michael Franks comes over in 21st position, eases slightly as the gradient lets up. Millward 22nd. Yakimuk was over in 23rd position. Big gapping back to Mealy. Has been, strangely for this course with so much flat on it, I was expecting there to be more grouping, but seems like everybody's ended up, well, not everybody, but there's been quite a lot of solo riders, gaps in between each other. See Mealy coming over now in 24th position, but you see Ursula just behind there has gone into the deep red to drop Mark Lightfoot, and it looks like she's achieved that. Coming over in 25th position, still in the deep red there. Mark just not able to respond. And Mark comes over in 26th position. Just a little bit further down the course, we can see there's a battle going on between Katie Warren, Barry Wilson, We Bicycle, and Paredes there. Katie currently leading as We Bicycle puts in a sprint. Takes the lead. Barry's just in front of Katie. We Bicycle, then Barry, then Katie. And then Paredes coming over in 30th position. And Metz 31st. Barry was putting in a lot of effort this evening. He's done his warm up. He took part in he ran the REAC warm up session before he came into this. Tom Smith just being overtaken here by Posso, it looks. Still got 212 meters left to go. It is all uphill. And Tom just keeping a steady tempo there. Posso a bit of yo-yoing, whether he'll be able to overhaul Tom in the last sections. Tom was earlier on enjoying a good period of drafting behind some bots. Posso going into the deep red there. Comes around Tom. 100 meters left to go. Not a great deal of drafting left to be had here. Butler closing as well, but we're into the finishing markers now. Butler's closing in on Tom Smith as well. Posso looks like he's safe. He's gone into his sprint. Posso opens up at 4 watts per kilogram as we're coming into these final barriers. Looks like Tom's going to be overhauled there by Butler. Butler just made it as Tom's position at the last moment there. Tom giving it all on the road. not able to open up a sprint. Final section is Ledung, 36th position. Back on the road there, we've seen a Palmer now. $150 meters left to go for Palmer. I just mentioned quickly, we're seeing quite a few riders this evening in the No War shirt. The jerseys in RGT. You can RGT quite regularly add new jerseys for clubs, and to reflect what's happening in Ukraine. They've added a new jersey, the No War jersey, which they're encouraging riders to wear as a show of the stand, basically. We're also seeing quite a few riders this evening, as we see Palmer come over in 56th. Just mention it because I saw a few riders this evening who also changed their nationality flag to the Ukrainian flag as well. And Gale, 72nd position, coming through. TSS score, total suffer score shown in the top right hand corner of the screen there is 87 currently. Just Sergio just commenting that he was having a little bit of trouble with his avatar in the first sections of the race. Got frozen initially, that's why he was down in 80th position and had to burn a lot of the matches, gaining places. Was able to make a quite healthy showing of it in the end. I think he finished it in 14th position, I think. See Gale coming over the line now. Greasley is chasing hard, but he's not going to be able to catch her. Comes over the line in 72nd. Greasley over in 73rd. And then we've got Norse, 75th. Managed to drop Bevershire. Darren's just commenting that Sergio was 11th, which is fantastic considering he came all the way from the back of the field. Thanks, Darren. I knew he'd done remarkably. He's a great rider. Rode the Argira with him 2 years ago now, and great rider, great motivator as well. He stayed at the end of every race to wait for me to finish, and ensured I gave my all on each of the races, which I didn't really like him for at the time, but it did improve me as a rider. See Norse now, 60 meters left to go. And Darren's just saying he's had a chain drop. At what part of the race did you have the chain drop, Darren? I couldn't tell. I was bouncing a bit to and fro on the stream. Norse comes over in 75th position. Bevershire coming over in 76th. And Aguas. Now 330 meters left to go. Aguas was riding with Murray, but has dropped Murray somewhat. Darren had a chain drop just before the last hill, so did fantastically to hold your position there, Darren. You did really well tonight. As I said earlier on the stream, Darren's been racing these races for many months now, and it's great to see the progression that he's achieving in his cycling. He's battling for the front spot all the time now, and sticking with the front groups on the flatter races and challenging for the wins. Just hills, my nemesis as well. I think there's a lot of people who aren't very keen on the hills, especially when you end up carrying a handicap and it slows you down. Aguas now and then 9%. Darren saying he's had a bad gear change on the front derailleur, led to the chain drop and battling with Ollie Perkins. One thing to note if you are doing these races and you're riding RGT is that there is a slope intensity adjustment. You can change the slope intensity to lower the impact of the hills. It doesn't make them any... what's the phrase really? You're still climbing the same size of a hill, but what it does do is it gives you a virtual gearing. It increases the size of your rear cassette. So I quite often, I don't ride a bike that I would ride a bike for the flatlands. My rear cassette goes up to 28, and for me that's not enough to climb some of these hills. So I quite often lower the slope intensity in RGT just to allow me to climb the hills a little bit more comfortably. Aguas comes over in 77th position. We drop back to Murray. Murray still pushing hard on this final climb. See the suffer score there up at nearing the 100 mark. So yeah, slope intensity, it doesn't make the hills any less. All it does is increase your virtual gearing, so it can make them easier to overcome. And it's a fantastic feature for those who are using bikes that might not be geared for the climbing that they're doing in RGT. So I used to use an old 7-speed close ratio cassette. It's 1224, and it had a huge front ring on it as well. So I used to use the slope intensity slider massively on that bike, so I could just get climbing without blowing my knees out. So it's not a cheat feature. It's you have to create the same amount of power to get over the hills. It's just that you can do it without murdering your legs. So Murray is coming up now in the 11.2 degrees section. No problem, Darren. Thanks. Enjoy doing the commentary. Allows me an output for all my chunnering. Hope everybody else enjoys it too. You have to suffer it anyway. You can mute me if you don't like it. The course tonight, in case I didn't mention it earlier on, is put together by Will Usher. Puts courses together from all over the world. Fantastic races. Puts a lot of time and effort into these courses to make sure that they'll work for their handicap events, that they've got a little bit in them for every single rider. And the handicap as well means that you've got oh, sorry, I lost my train of thought there for a moment. The handicap also means that you've got the ability to use the natural terrain much more than you would on your average course, and in fact you have to use the natural terrain much more than you would in an ordinary course in RGT. So yeah, the course is much more important in my opinion than it is in a standard race, because of this power limiting and all the riders being much more closely matched. You have to make the most of every little hill, lump, corner. There's combativity nominations coming in on the WhatsApp group for Zimeco and Benson. As Murray comes over the line in a time just a little over an hour, and that's our last live rider went over the line there. As I said, I'm going to play you out with a couple of the trailers. The VCM World Championships coming up soon. That's the little trailer we've done for that. And then the PRT rewards. Let's say it's a fantastic little scheme. Club. Doesn't cost you anything. And you can get yourself some really decent discounts from there for the stuff that you're going to be buying anyway, which is a great thing for me. I'm buying this stuff anyway, so why not get it cheaper? And the website there, precision-rewards.co.uk. So that's been the PRT Handicap stream for tonight. I hope you've enjoyed it. As I said before, if you could hit the like and subscribe buttons, and we'll catch you next week. We've got some more streams coming on. The VCN channel's full of them, and we hope you're enjoying all the work that we do. Catch you next time, and enjoy your cycling.